could we make something that could fix this issue? So I thought in today's live stream with Clément here, I'm going to sort of like lead the first half and just take you through a track that I made with mixed drums. And then in the second half, Clément can maybe go a little bit more technical, and we can go through like a drum loop and make a preset and talk about like the actual like signal flow and just get a little bit more in the juice as we've got Clément here, which is great. So maybe we could just listen to the track I made and then we could just break it down a little bit. I'm just going to sort of bypass the effect so you could just hear what it sounds like on the drums, but let's just have a little quick listen. So I hope you like that. I thought it was quite a good track. If I don't say so myself. No, I'm joking. So just maybe we could just listen to the loop. So it's all like the same drum loop, and you could hear like there was like 4 or 5 different vibes that we gained from mixed drums. So we could just maybe listen to it on the first section and just do some like on-offs, I think. So here is mixed drums. Maybe I'll just quickly loop this section and we can just bypass it. So this is using the preset Emre made called A Good Bit of Attitude. And it's just like night and day. Adding like lots of, I guess a different character. I guess we could like solo it and just have a little analyze. What do you think, Clem?
It's quite louder.
It's definitely a lot louder. But the peaks don't change.
Yeah.
And I feel like well, to me, the kick really starts standing out. And yeah, just the whole sort of drum kit just sort of, it's different flavour, adds a lot to it, for sure. And then all together. So then the next section is sort of like a little breakdown. Same drum loop. Using a different preset, doing a little bit of automation. I just can't believe yet how night and day it is. It's like completely different vibe, really much more presence. It's very cool. All right, we'll just go through one more section, and then maybe we could listen to some one-shots. It's just to really give you an idea of what this product can do to like your, to the track, to your mix. So this is one using lo-fi, tape mellify lo-fi preset. Kick sounds pretty good. Yeah, it sounds good. And yeah, it's been fun to do automation, like opening up the filters or adding some highs, adding a bit of drive as it goes into like sort of the next sections. I found that really fun to do on the track. And then I guess the last little break is another completely different vibe using the same loop. 2 seconds. This is like really like almost turning into like electronic. Crazy. That is complete transformation. Very cool. Nice. Should we hear some little one shots, then do the preset thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is so yeah, at the start, I just wanted to show like sort of what it sounded like on a kick, on a snare, on some like toms. So maybe we could just do the kick and the snare because they're like really common to want to be beefed up in your track. So this is just, so the preset's called Reso Kick. So without, I can't remember where I got this. I think it was like a drum pack, live drums. So you can really just, yeah, sounds like just a kick in a room. Pretty great. So yeah, if you have any sort of weak one-shots, weak snares, this thing is pretty amazing. This is tape snare. I guess that one doesn't really change the tone too much, but just adds a bit more loudness and perception. So yeah, I think you get a kind of an idea of what this plugin can do and how I've been using it. And maybe we could jump over to a loop and just sort of make a preset together and talk about how we develop this thing. Let me just go here. I'm just going to change the BPM. And unsolo. Cool. Over to you, Clément.
So, maybe we could start by explaining what's Emre's core concept in this chain.
For sure.
What he likes to do is to split the signal between bass frequencies and what's higher, and control those two signals with distortion and clipping, merge them together, and then finish off things.
Yep.
In his concept, it doesn't really rely on traditional techniques, which would be, for example, with drums, like compressing the shit out of them to bring like the room, the low-level stuff, and like blend, for example, in parallel, blend some denser signals and like beef up the drums while keeping your peaks in parallel in the drive signal. He prefers to like do that with distortion and filtering to like bring more texture, vibe, shape that with some transient shapers.
Yep.
And so it's kind of a same kind of idea, but not at all the same processes, and so it can be really more transformative timbre-wise instead of just amplitude-wise of what you would get with a compressor. So the first thing to understand in the plugin, and which is really core to Emre's concept, is the peak level. What Emre is doing is he has clippers everywhere in his chain, and so there are hidden clippers everywhere.
Yep.
Some more hidden than others, but there are a lot of clippers in the chain, and the goal is to match those clippers to the peak level of your input. So kind of saying, I choose a source, I put my safety clipper just above its peak, and now I will guarantee that I'm keeping my peaks at that level through the chain.
Yeah,
and
I mean, and like you, I feel like you kind of, I don't feel like he was fully there until you came on board and were like, maybe we could do this whole input clipper ceiling, right?
Yeah, it raised some usability questions and how to control all those clippers simply. And we all discussed, and we come up to the idea to have a like that ceilings because it's not ceilings. One ceiling, it's like multiple ceilings which are all over the plugin, and basically this is where you set all the gain staging of the plugin.
Yeah, because I mean, in the background, like the distortion path has a clipper, the dry has a clipper, the tape has a clipper, the other distortion has a clipper.
The transient shapers have a clipper,
has a clipper.
The output has a clipper, so
there's like
we'll
8 or 9 or something.
We will run to all the clippers when we go to each module. But so the most important thing in the plugin is to have ceilings correctly set, because if it's not, either your not guaranteeing your peak level,
Yep.
which you may want sometime, but is maybe not the core idea of the plugin. And on the other end, like basically too much clipping everything.
Yeah.
So.
And it's, yeah, and just to say to like, it took quite a long time to figure out like the UX and the UI of this. And as you like, if we just quickly play it, you can see this little green, solid green band. And
Yeah.
that's the sweet spot that you need
Yeah.
to, and it can, I guess you can be at the top of that, at the,
Yeah.
it's like,
Let's see, I'm raising the ceiling to 0, like
Okay.
it is when you open the plugin, you press play, and let's be a little bit stupid. And now we see everything turns red. We're clipping everything, so
Yeah.
do not set it that way. The goal would be to be like just above the peaks in the darker green zone, and that's why we did that function auto set, which
Yeah.
kind of holds the highest peaks, so it can just automatically put your ceiling up there. It will not follow. It's not like something that will move. It's following just when you click. It updates the value.
yeah. And then you can lock the ceilings.
Yeah.
So like basically your drum loops, like, well, the plugin's kind of calibrated, like set up. And then if you want, just like go through the presets, and every preset should be calibrated correctly, so you're not like
Yeah.
driving the plugin too much. But it was interesting because when I then showed this to Emre, I think you still might need to adjust a few levels, because if you put in like a highly processed drum loop, it's
Yeah.
coming in quite, like there's quite a lot of already like processing gone on there. So
Yeah,
you
and
still need to tweak a little bit, I'd say.
yeah, a little bit or sometimes a bit more.
Yeah.
Because let's face it, what is the most incoherent thing? It's like bass levels.
Yeah.
Some loops have like enormous bass level, and some loops or drums have like really short and tight kicks with not much low end. So of course, if you load a preset which intends to boost a lot of bass
Yep.
on a loop which is heavily processed in the bass, it's gonna get a bit nasty. But
You get the big bass.
a bigger.
Should we go through like the
Yeah.
lows? Maybe I could show the.
Yeah, maybe
flowchart.
we can talk about the signal flow, the overall.
So this is like a simplified signal flow that we added into the manual.
Yeah.
But yeah, do you want to just like maybe talk through
Yeah.
what's going on?
So let's start with the bass part. So input, crossover, so we split between low and mid-high.
Yep.
So on the low side, it's then two parallel signals. You have a dry signal, which is not 100% dry. I mean,
Only because
it
it has the clipper. But
it is dry if you don't mess up too much. But
yeah.
basically, that dry signal has a clipper with its ceiling set
Yeah.
at the value of the input ceilings.
Which
on-
is still like, you can still just do subtle
Yeah,
distortion with it or something, which is still nice.
yeah. And yeah, maybe we should mention that it's all tape clippers, so it's not like
No.
brutal hard clipping. It's progressive, so it's
Analog,
analogish sounding.
analogish
Yeah.
sounding, yeah.
Yeah, and so with that dry signal in parallel, you have the op amp, which is just finely tweaked settings of our op amp distortion plugin,
Which is,
the Sans amp.
yeah. Which is like basically, this is what Emre would do on
Yeah,
in
but
a live session or something.
yeah, he has one in hardware, and
Yep.
he uses it in parallel, and he kind of recreated his presets
Yep.
on our model. So that op amp, it's like it's a distortion for sure, but it's quite warm sounding. It's not really harsh, so it's perfect for bass. It's followed by a clipper, of course.
Yeah, maybe you should dot all the clippers in it.
Then both are summed. We go into a transient shaper, so to do stuff with the
Yep.
transient part or the body of the signal, and it's clipped again.
Three clippers I'm counting so far.
Yeah, 3. On the mid-high...
Well, I think let's maybe listen to the lows.
Yeah, maybe.
And then we can do the high section,
And
just
maybe
so people don't
back.
get lost.
So,
Let me open it up.
yeah. So when you open the plugin, you will see a visualizer. The low section is here. If we click, we see the control, and we can solo. So let's do that. Here we're only hearing the dry signal. This is the crossover going from 30 to 500 Hertz.
And why does it go up to 500?
On some loops with like
For toms and
for
stuff?
toms, if you have
Yeah.
like big toms, the toms can go to 80,
Yeah,
100 Hertz and go way up there, and maybe you would want to have all the tom processed the same way. So more flexibility. The goal here will be, of course, depending on the loop and the vibe you're going for, to find the frequency where you mostly get the kick and like not the snare.
Yeah. And that's why, I mean, the default's 100 hertz.
Yeah,
And I don't know, I haven't really changed it that much personally.
yeah, it's
Like, I
But-
feel like 100 hertz is a pretty safe zone to like get the kicks and only the kicks.
yeah. And it's, yeah, I'm 150 here, why not? Let's go 130.
Cool.
Okay, so we have the dry signal. What we can see is now we are splitting that or base level. We see
Maybe
our,
you could turn the tape off just so it's, and yeah, just like the spectrum.
yeah, but we're in solo here anyway.
Okay, well,
So,
I'm just saying the spectrum.
yeah, yeah, so we don't see the spectrum.
Yeah.
So here we have quite some headroom until we reach our signal. So we could either say, let's boost the dry. Okay, it's obviously clipping here.
Still sounds pretty good though.
So just the dry.
Yeah.
Let's remove the dry, activate the op-amp. As you can hear, it's like maybe
and
a
you can even see
little
the
bit.
spectrum. It's like,
Yeah, it gives some harmonics. It will like increase the perception of the kick in like all the band limited systems out there. And by systems, I mean like smartphones, headphones, some earbuds, laptop speakers, TVs,
Yeah.
all that stuff. So here it's a bit over the top, maybe. Let's take just a bit of some grit. Do I want a bit of dry signal in parallel? Maybe. Let's
turn it off. Yeah.
okay, so here it's quite doing an enormous bass boost,
Sounds great.
but with some vibe.
Yeah.
It's a bit over the top, but we are here for that.
We are here for the over the top.
What's interesting then is the transient shaper. Of course, we could say, let's add transient. But here, since I was already just below the clipping point, what's my transient attack doing is just, I want to selectively distort the attack phase of the signal because it's running through a clipper. It could be different, like let's enter lower in level and use a cleaner
Sure.
transient phase, but I'm not here for clean today, so let's go back. So we
You want
could
it as
like
dirty
say,
as possible.
yeah, let's smack. It's too much for sure. Like slightly, and then you have the body. I think I fell in love with that part of the
I would say
transient
maybe,
shaper.
disclaimer, put some headphones on if you're trying to hear this bit.
Yeah.
Or have some nice speakers.
What we could do, for example, is let's remove all body. If we put the body time long, it will like do a nice decay curve on the bass. If we put it short, yeah, for sure, we remove everything. But then we could also use some body gain to like lengthen the kick.
Yeah, because it's quite weak. Well, it's quite like short, I feel like, on the actual loop.
Yeah, let's be a little bit less so. Maybe now I'm too high because we hear the snare a bit more. Okay. And here it's more sluggish. I did it,
but it's like it's a world of difference. It's a world of difference.
So
because you can't just like whack a EQ on that and make it bigger in the mix.
And the point of playing with the body is most of the time drums have their highest level on the transient phase, and then it's decaying. So by using the body, it's there. You can put like more time, more energy without increasing the peaks or adding more distortion or grittiness. But like, yeah, here we can really hear the effect of lengthening the kick. And so maybe it fits what you want or not. Maybe you would want a shorter or tighter kick, but that's a good control to adjust when you don't exactly have what you want.
Yeah. Maybe get back to the flowchart?
Yeah, I'm probably
You're not happy with the kick.
No, I think
it's interesting because like both of them were like two different vibes of the same loop.
Yeah.
Two different kicks. That's cool.
A bit longer time, so it's more natural. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay, let's go with it. Let's go back to the signal flow.
Back to the flow. There we go.
So
that's like the whole burgundy color.
Yeah.
Then this way.
Then you have the mid-high path.
And this is kind of like from snares all the way to the cymbals, percussion.
Yeah, from the snares body to
yeah.
way up there. To dog frequencies. So this one is a little bit different in the sense that it's not directly a dry and a process signal in parallel. You, after the crossover, you first go to a tape clipper, which is like to increase density, because you may need it or you may not need it, but if your drive is at minimum, it's basically linear. It's shaped by a tone circuit. So the tone circuit is something that could boost low mids to mids around 700 Hertz, quite a wide bell, or more the lower high mids at 2.5K. So a lot of loops are usually mid-scooped. So it's like a first large tonal shift, but smooth. It's not surgical, it's more here for vibe and overall tonal balance.
And this was all from the tape Mellify, right?
Yeah.
Or it's like that's what he put in his prototype and we kind of...
Yeah, he put the tape Mellify in the prototype and we kind of started from there and just took what was interesting in tape Mellify and
kind
got rid of what wasn't.
And also
nice,
what's interesting in Emre's mind, although it's like going through the tape Mellify, this is like the dry, in his mind this was kind of like the dry signal, even though it's kind of colored.
It's I think we should mention that drums and basically all atonal sources like noise, transients, all stuff which basically sounds like clicks or white noise or combination of that. The most transparent thing to handle their dynamics can be clipping. Because clipping a transient, clipping noise is just adding noise or removing noise. But limiting or compressing noise or drums, it's pumping. And on drums, on all sources that are atonal, the dirtiness from distortion is usually way more transparent than having something which controls them in the cleanest way, but then you hear it pump. So that's why it's mostly about clippers here, and especially in the mid-high path.
Okay, so we're on the 4th clipper.
Yeah, but this one, it has a drive, so you can control it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So after the tape signal,
this is where it gets a bit different to the bass. It's like
there is
some strange stuff going on.
There is a tape signal going further, and it's like your dry path.
Yep.
Do not put drive and it's your perfectly dry path. Put drive and it's your tape-ish dried path. Mm-hmm. Your dried tape. And from the tape and the tone circuit, there is a parallel path which goes to a distortion module with a few filters, a way to add back clean treble, and that's where the main vibe is going on. By vibe, I mean when you really can select which texture you want to add or modify.
And I would say kudos to Clément, because I don't know, I feel like at this stage when we were in the development, it was like, how do we add everything in? How do we not mess up the phase of everything? And this is kind of why there's no dry wet, because doing all this filtering and distortion, having a dry wet, we felt like it was gonna not add anything basically to the sound. But yeah, you did some really clever.
It raises other issues. So
But Clément did some really clever signal path filtering. Everything's like kind of combined, right?
Yeah, it's just that if you put a filter and you use it in parallel, if the slope is low, everything's fine. And by low, I mean first order, and that's it. But if you use like a 24 dB per octave filter and you run that in parallel, you will get a big notch at the cutoff frequency, which on drums doesn't really sound great. So yeah, anytime you activate a filter or something on the UI, under the hood, all the different parallel paths get their phase updated, kind of shifted in the same way as the path you're meddling with, so everything still stay in phase relative to each other. So that's why it's
a really great solution.
That's why it's just summing basically properly at the end. So, and with distortion, why distortion filters and etc. Usually a distortion will mostly answer to the loudest part of the signal, so it can be either two ways, like there are big peaks and those peaks are being clipped, like more amplitude control, but in more tonal parts it will be like the fundamentals are usually way higher than the harmonics, and so when you distort the bass, it's like the fundamental frequencies that just makes that basically controls the distortion. So having filters to like pre-remove stuff before the distortion is the biggest change you can do to change how a distortion sound and which harmonic it generates, and at the end which kind of texture and vibes it brings you.
Which we'll show in a second.
Yeah.
It's easier to maybe hear than...
Yeah,
totally.
for sure.
It's like, like honing in, distorting that like one section of the frequency band.
Yeah, and maybe just a simple example. Your drum loop has a big hole at 1K. Instead of bringing with EQ stuff which is not necessarily pretty on that loop, or even there, you just distort something and filter it to just fill that hole and bring some stuff in. So when you then we have the tape and the taped distorted filtered signal are summed.
Yep.
They go to a tilt filter because, as you will see, it's easy to get lost in a direction. But if, like you say, I want less highs, you will try to dial down some of your distortion, and it's not really sounding the same. Whereas the tilt could really keep the tone you have, but offset it.
It's kind of like a brightness.
Yeah, it's
Right?
It's
a bit of a darker color or a brighter color,
It's
right?
your brightness contrast in Photoshop. Simple, transparent, but that's...
We just couldn't fit brightness in the UI.
Yeah. And then transient shaper, and of course, a clipper.
Another clipper, baby.
Yeah, it has been quite some time we didn't talk about a clipper.
But there's no clipper here, right? It was
No,
just
but
clipper
there are distortions everywhere, so it's controlling the signal.
Right, let's hear it. Let's
Yeah.
hear it in action.
So, let's solo the mid-highs. So first thing, we have level at 0, drive at 0.
So this is dry.
Yeah, this is dry, it's not clipping, nothing. Everything's great. Let's bring the tape. 100%, perhaps a bit too much.
Still sounding pretty good.
As you can see, and here, what we are talking just before about lengthening by density. Here, just the tape, since it's distorting the body, it increases the perceptual loudness without increasing the peaks. And so what we have is like the snare feels a little bit longer. All the low-level stuff is higher level, it's more dense. But it's not done by compression, so there are no like time constant and pumping or stuff.
And we have the tone?
And yeah, we have the tone, so more
So this
low
is
mid 700
hertz.
hertz, yeah. It's 6 dB at 700 hertz. And it's 6 dB at 2.5K.
Yeah.
Okay?
It's amazing, but just that one knob really changed the vibe. Especially in this loop, it sounds it's really interesting.
At some point you see that most drum loops have problems kind of in the same areas, and it's nice what you can do with only 2 frequencies.
Yeah.
And not just ask, what do I need to boost or what? No, just try tone, it fits, it doesn't fit, next subject. So here I'm maybe putting a little bit at 2.5K.
And it's also to note, like, you could just use that low and just the tape, and that could be your preset. Like, you don't have to do all the other stuff. And this is kind of like, to me, where this effects and products like really quite special, because you can do from the subtle thing of doing this, like, I want my kick a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit of more flavor in the drums, and that's it. And it's like perceptually louder, it sounds bigger in your mix.
Yeah.
And then in the next stage, we can really go and transform and take it to a whole different place.
But it's so fun to transform it like way too much.
Of course.
But this is the kind of plugin where you do something, you're like excited like a little child, and you listen back the next morning and you say, okay, let's jam everything down.
Rein it in.
It's easy to get over the top, but
yeah. And I guess it's a good chance to say, like, in the presets. Oh, I've got too many presets.
Yeah, there are
but we have like creative drums, which is where we really transform it. All the natural drums is this more like just a bit of kick, adding a bit of tape kind of thing. So it's all there if you want to just try out and learn a little bit.
Let's say we didn't want to do too much and bring back the lows. Maybe just add some small amount of smack. Maybe. Do we need some body?
Sounds alright.
Yeah. More as a special effect for a breakdown. What would be interesting, so...
Yeah, I love it. It's so good.
Yeah. And
so good there.
A little goes a long way.
It just makes it so much groovier. Yeah, pretty cool.
Like -3 dB, 200 milliseconds, just as that slight shapening, tightening.
Very cool.
even without the attack. You see, not clipping everywhere if I don't use the attack. Still. So, just an example of.
Yeah. I mean, this is like
subtle.
one of the workflows I would say is like.
Yeah.
Is one to suggest basically.
Even though I will not call what we have done in the law subtle.
Well, to my ears it sounds good, so like whatever.
So, since it's two parallel signals, if I'm cutting the tape and I'm cutting the distortion after, I have no more sound. So
yeah.
You need one or the other or both.
Yeah.
So let's skip that and let's play with distortion. But maybe we're only gonna listen to the distortion. So
yeah. And then clicking on the title adds these extra like
frequency control.
Yeah, more advanced controls.
Yeah. So let's solo the mid-high. So here you can select a few distortions. For example, tube.
And these are like distortions from the FX collection, basically. Some of the ones that we've handpicked and Emre handpicked.
Yeah.
Like germanium. Like the CPU killer germanium.
Yeah. This is a secret tip, but germanium 1 and 2 are the distortion from our Grampian Spring Reverb, the 636.
Yeah, which sounds incredible.
T-can overdrives are distortion from Bus Force, which have some filtering and emphasis, so they sound a little bit more round. You also have another tape, which is not the same tape model as the other. Yeah, so
why not?
Why not get two tapes?
Where's it from? The J37?
No, this is the tape model we did for Coldfire.
Okay.
And this one has some special kind of high frequency eating. So like round transient.
Maybe we should call it a different tape too or something.
Then we have a few digital distortions. So Big Crusher, of course. Rate Crush, which is a rate reducer.
Which sounds amazing.
A rectifier, my personal favorite.
And this is from the Exciter, right?
No, this is the rectifier from Coldfire as well.
Okay.
But in the bus exciter, the exciter itself is a rectifier.
Okay.
So I will come back to that one. And then we have a few wave shapers, like normal ones and the crazy folders. So right now it can seem okay. Wherever I bring drive, it's too much. But that's where the filtering comes from.
Okay. I'll just get later on and have a rest and then we'll go back in.
Yeah. So.
And Clément always used the rectifier, right? What's your favorite?
I love rectifiers because on tonal stuff they tend to like switch octaves and do weird stuff. And on drums that are tonal, like the classic 909 hi-hat, for example, which is quite tonal and metallic, a rectifier will kind of transform that into a more noisy signal.
Okay.
And so you can really blend in like more whitish noise kind of characteristic with rectifiers that you really don't get with other type of distortion. And rectifier functions the same that if the signal is really loud or really quiet. It's like agnostic to level. So they will always do the same thing, whereas the distortion, if you're too low, it will not distort. If you're too high, it will like distort too much. So
interesting.
That's why it's stuff using exciters, so you don't have to really mess with gain staging.
Okay.
But anyway, let's go. Let's start with the synth folder. Why not?
Okay, let's go.
We're here for that. Okay, it's already sounding like
Mental.
crazy, mental. But that's why the pre-distortion high pass
Nice.
okay, it has quite some noisy characteristics.
Yeah, it's quite lo-fi, really.
Yeah. And you also have a post-distortion high pass because, let's face it, you high pass a signal, you distort it, you get lows back. So you can refilter them or not, depending on what
And
you
we were like, when we were developing, we were like, do we have just the one or the both? Because as a user, it's like, pre and a post, it's a bit, I don't know, it can be a bit confusing or a bit advanced, but
Yeah.
in the end, Emre put his foot down. And I think it was the right decision.
Yeah, because it's the kind of control you need
Yeah.
and you would miss.
And the UX is nice now.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So, I brought back the tape, Synfold is off, and okay, let's just bring some texture.
And on the spectrum, you can see the kicks are the dark red, the tape's this reddish, and then this distortion is an orange.
Yeah.
Just so it's like, visually you can understand.
So bringing, yeah, that kind of lo-fi layer. Let's click transient. Yeah, I know it's red, but perceptually, it gives you dirtiness on the attacks, which makes the transient hit harder without higher hit level.
Sounds good.
Yeah. And so I have filtered that Synfold signal. It's a bit too much up there. And that's where clean eyes come in. That allows you to bring back clean eyes which are not taped.
No,
So
completely
it's
plain.
taken before. Yeah, it's a
It's probably the drier signal.
it's the driest signal in the whole plugin because up until it reaches the transient shaper,
Yeah.
it hasn't seen any clipper.
Yeah. Because there's not really any need for the hi-hat, well, for like that
Yeah.
kind of, what are we at?
Yeah,
2K
and
up,
it's
of.
because distortion at some point tends to add a lot of harmonics, so add treble, but they really tend to like eat transients and all impact. And so when you just use the clean eyes, which is high pass, for example, here at I don't know, 2.5K,
2.5, yeah.
you're really gonna get only the bright part of transients and of the other stuff, but what's gonna be the loudest would be like those small clean transient in the eyes, and so you can bring back a little bit. So let's say I'm
And
not bringing
it's so useful, I find.
yeah.
The clean high is just like,
And this is now the, let's say I did stuff a little bit over the top, like that. Now I can say tilt. And you have to remember that the tilt is before the clipper, so if I put 12 dB of tilt, of course at some point I'm gonna distort like crazy.
yeah.
But you could say I'm not putting clean eyes. I'm just getting a little bit of tilt.
And that's why we put like tone and tilt in this little box, because even when like tape is off, it's still the tape signal that's going into distortion. So,
Yeah.
So tone still affects the distortion,
Yeah,
and even with like the distortion off, tilt still affects the
Yeah.
tape. So it's kind of like this. They affect both. So
they affect both, and kind of like the filters, it's tone is between, tilt is after. So tone and tilt are another round of pre-emphasis, de-emphasis
Sure.
around the distortion, which, yeah, can bring different vibes and texture.
Sorry, you're just doing a bypass. Yeah, let's do a little
Yeah.
bypass.
I'm flipping a little bit. too much. Yeah, let's go a little bit more lo-fi. So that's one example. We could
Maybe we just do one more.
Yeah. Let me show you like the rectifier as well. So start.
It's crazy how the filtering just completely.
Yeah. So
Maybe turn the tilt.
yeah, I'm gonna do that. So we rectify here. Oh, you see that tonal characteristic, but it may be not necessarily what I want. We see like the snare body is kind of imprinting some weird tonal stuff. And yeah, you see that.
We're still adding loads of.
Yeah, because it's a rectifier, so that's why.
I can't really see, but I'm like pointing at the spectrum because the orange is like all the way down to the lower bass.
And that's why.
That's why you have
with
both.
a rectifier, it's really important to like dial what you want.
It's crazy. It makes it so much lower energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now we see the rectifier. It's doing like some quite treble boost. So if I were to like, mix it a little bit high in level, I went a bit over the top here, but
Easily done.
yeah.
Easily done.
You know what? Let's go back with our usual undo redo to
Nice coat. One more. Okay, that one I think.
that one.
But there's no. That's okay. Though.
Yeah, but I think
I think it sounds good. Yeah.
it works.
So
Next we have a space section.
space section. Maybe just finally final look at the flow. So now we're here.
Yeah.
Everything's summed
Together. It's sent to a space path, which is in parallel.
I couldn't really do it very easily on the flow. So it's like, everything goes through, then it's just sent to space, then back into the.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Then it's running through EQ.
Yeah, which is mainly for correction. It's not really. You can use it.
You can
different
use
ways,
it
but-
for whatever you want, but at each point
Yeah.
in this plugin, you have to understand the context, which is there surely is a clipper after what you're doing. So every time you boost, you have to understand that you may boost into a clipper. So you're like imprinting another different flavor.
Yep.
So that's why EQ cuts can be a little bit more safe and transparent than EQ boost, but that gives you the option to really drive the output clipper. And not on the signal flows are the two balance knobs, which
I
you
didn't
could
really
use.
put them in, but yeah.
But we can talk about them just after.
Yeah.
So space signal, we have
Sorry. Yeah. Just click on the Ableton.
I
So in
shouldn't
spa-
say that, but I'm not a Mac user, so I'm a bit lost.
It's okay.
So-
That's why I'm here. I'm here to help.
So, space section, you have a choice of a space module, so two different reverb, an algorithmic one, a convolution one.
Combo of all sorts of
Yeah.
creative spaces, halls, plates, springs, studio rooms.
And two delays, normal delay, tape delay.
Yeah.
And after that, there is a dynamic module, which allow a lot of funny stuff.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys, on like LX24, that's where we kind of,
Yeah, it's the same module as on the LX24,
because it's like for that especially, it was like gated reverb, or
Yeah.
was the main kind of concept, I guess, where it came from.
Yeah. So maybe listen to a few. I'm putting way too much reverb, but
Yeah, just so
it's
people can
easily
hear it.
audible at least. Like some strings.
Yeah, really nice.
Or big airy plate, really dense. Big holes. And
Some really strange ones.
this one is properly named Metalix. So you have a few different flavors here.
Yeah.
There is the algorithmic reverb, if you want to go over the top.
That's pretty good.
With some pre-delays that you can sync, so usual reverb control and a delay. Probably not gonna extend too much on the delay for now.
So you can get some pretty cool like dubby drum
I'm
sounds.
gonna show a
cool.
few tips just after. So let's say go back to the algorithmic reverb. I'm putting it way too loud, a bit long, with no damping, so lots of treble, and then let's engage
Just
dynamic.
quickly.
Oh yeah, sure. So you have two filters. We can solo the space section, and you have to.
Just to hone it in if you want, right?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
so like a bit more control on
Most reverb have those controls
Yeah,
anyway.
of course.
Especially high passing, so you don't want the boomy kick like cluttering your mix. So let's go there for you. So I have a big reverb, it's mixed too loud. Yeah, I know, but I want it. And now it's cluttering my mix. So let's use the dynamic and the ducker. So basically the ducker is a sidechain compressor, and the drum loop will make the compressor trigger and duck when there is some hits. So let's go subtle.
So as it hits, there's
As
no
it hits,
reverb,
it's ducking the reverb.
and then the reverb comes back
Yeah.
in.
So the loop is a bit fast to
Sure.
really like.
It goes slow. No, it doesn't sound good.
Yeah. But
That was fun.
yeah, and you could like put a smaller ratio with a really deep threshold, for example. You just keep the reverb a little bit behind when it's buzzy and when there is space to breathe. Like
Nice.
with big reverbs on drums, a ducker can be nice. Sometimes it's nice on vocals as well. Like you
Yeah,
don't
yeah, for
clutter
sure.
the voice, and at the end of a,
For sure, yeah.
a word, the reverb blushes.
Just letting everyone have a little rest of the old drum loop.
So after that, we have the classic gate module, which on all drum loops, on a drum loops with all parts in it, is probably not the best.
It's pretty cool though.
Yeah. If you want to do some rhythmic stuff, but if
Yeah.
the usual example would be the classic 80s, 90s gated
Yeah.
snares effect, and you would better use that on like single hits,
Yeah.
snares, stuff like that,
Yeah.
instead of
I think
the
we
mix
have
of all your
a.
drum.
I think we have a snare. Do we have a snare or a tom? 80 signature tom.
Yeah.
So you can try that when you get the plugin.
And the last dynamic module is a tremolo, which is like a simple LFO with different shapes that handles the amplitude, but you can do a lot of stuff that you would usually do with like motions or stuff like that. So
this is where the product kind of gets a little bit more to the...
Yeah, it's more creative with that. So for example, with a reverb, let's mix it way too loud, like it is, and use a pump wave shape, which is basically a wave shape kind of emulating what a sidechain compressor does. And 1/4, so it's like sidechain to a kick. Or then you can so you can do like stuff like this. You could of course put like a sine and to have like it so what I like with the tremolo, pro tip coming.
Here we go.
No, creative.
This is why you're here.
Creative trick. Use the saw waveform, for example. Let me pull that back. Use the delay. So I'm going like crazy. Let's ping pong. Just slightly stereo. I think it's not fast enough. Yeah, and now we bringing the tremolo, put it like for example at 1/8.
I think it's 2.
Oh no, I clicked 8. I'm
Not 8 bars.
yes. Or if we did sync that one, at 1/4.
Add some more room.
It's like on the transients, but it's not cluttering all the
Yeah.
So these rhythmic waveforms, they are not what you would use for sure on your best mic'd drums, like all that drum picked in a big church, but on a crappy loop that is sitting in the far end of your hard drive, it could be the ticket to like bring some.
But I mean, like
stuff.
that's we just went through all the different reverbs of like I don't know, the algorithmic and that, and then you can go to these sort of more crazier ones.
So I'm gonna keep that delay.
Yeah, let's do it. And we should probably let's like wrap up, I reckon.
Let's keep it in mono. Or else. A little bit filtery texture. We're going lo-fi, aren't we? Then you have your final section. I'm gonna turn back down a little bit.
Yeah.
You have your final section, EQ. So you have
3 bands.
3 bands. Okay, so a bell in the center, a low shelf,
But they can all
or
be
bell,
bells, right? Yeah.
or high shelf
Or
and
bell.
bell. Yeah, standard 3-band EQ stuff.
Yeah.
And you have the 2 balance knobs, which allow you to, at the end, alter your balance between the low and high pass.
Yeah.
And, of course, allow you to drive the output clipper. Whoa. did that automatically. That's all.
I don't know what happened.
Right. But you can either adjust your balance between low and high, because it takes some time to go through the chain and you can lose a bit of focus. Let's say maybe I have too much low. You liked big low.
I like the big low.
Oh, okay. But you can, with that, drive the output clipper, the last one in the chain.
7th one? 8th one?
And of course, you can EQ. As I was saying, like I'm doing a stupid boost and now I'm clipping everything. But I could say maybe I want my lows like a bit deeper. So I'm reducing the level here, putting a big boost.
Nice, that's a good technique.
Different kind of flavor.
Yeah, and you can see on the spectrum, like the white is the sum basically.
Yeah, and maybe I'm getting quite tired about that one. Okay.
That's what you're boosting is? Oh, no,
no, I boosted just to find it. Maybe high shelf. And in that section you also have the noise.
Grandma's favourite.
I prefer adding noise with rectifiers, but
I don't know, it's cool like on some of the presets or whatever, or like some of what you're doing to add some vinyl crackle or whatever, it just adds.
Yeah. Let's remove.
Adds a vibe.
You could add the crackle in pre or post.
Yeah. We've got lots of strange noises.
Moog noise. Ooh. I didn't know Moogs were sounding like that.
I think when they've like found the native or something.
Oh, it's a big
Yeah. I think I got a bit creative with some of these names.
Yeah. But anyway. The thing is, like, mostly crackles, vinyl stuff, etc. would probably be applied post. Whereas more interesting noise that will get ducked, transient shaped, and basically dominated by the signal being distorted, which is louder, will follow and add texture. So
sure.
Probably not the best loop to add noise in.
Probably
depends.
Not.
But when you have loops with like missing parts of the spectrum, sometimes adding a low level noise will then feed the distortion and can be the ticket to like get a fuller sound without necessarily hearing at the end that there is a like static noise going in, because the plugin will make it not static.
I'm gonna save your preset.
Oh sure.
Unless I said presets. Not joking. And then maybe we just do a final A/B, I guess.
For example, here it's more a creative preset.
Yeah.
We more gain like texture, vibe, not necessarily more punch here. Basically the opposite, we gain some density. But I mean, if it was like you have drums and you have that loop you want to bring in and you want to add vibe and texture, it's nice to go over the top to like all the background loops that add interesting layers and stuff while you have like cleaner main drums. Or if it's your main drums, maybe you take a little bit more subtle approach. But with crappy loops, you can make them not crappy anymore.
Yeah.
And interesting and fun and retro and lo-fi and distorted and gritty and all sorts of different flavors of nastiness.
100%. I mean, maybe we could just finish it by listening to a few presets and then back to your preset, and then it's kind of just to show like with the same loop, because I really like that preset. These are the natural ones, and Pretty cool. And maybe we could just do a few creative ones. Chop it short.
Yeah, classic transient shaper to like really tighten, which this could be like really interesting in parallel or stuff like that.
So this is more of the like lo-fi vibes.
Yeah. Maybe you can load the insane one I'm thinking about.
Like military grade.
Yeah, military grade. Okay, maybe not for jazz, this one.
All right, well, I think that was a pretty great overview. And I think that kind of wraps up the live stream, I would say. Thanks so much, Clem, for joining.
You're welcome.
It's really interesting to... Well, yeah, I mean, we developed it together. We've been working on it for a year. And we both bring different things to the project. So it's like, it's great to like have your insights into like the real deepness of the features. It's great. And yeah, there's like a promo period of mixed drums for the next couple of weeks. Download a demo and try it yourself and see if you like it. I feel, I don't know, personally, like I don't know how many products or plugins I've made, maybe like 20 now or something. I feel like this is one of my favorite. I feel like this is like one of my favorite or like the best one we've made. I don't know, I really like it. So it's solving a lot of problems for me, which is amazing. And I hope it solves a lot of problems for you. So should we wrap it up?
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks everyone.
Thanks.
See you later.
Bye.